Today on Locked On Canadiens, the Habs beat Tampa, but can they continue with these impeccable vibes if they keep getting into the penalty box?
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. We thank you all for making us your first listen of the day every day. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Habs Impeccable Vibes. The vibes keep vibing. The Habs keep rolling. They're back in a wild card spot. We're going to be doing this dance all season. Hopefully, at least, they're not throwing themselves out or launching themselves out of a playoff spot dramatically, like some other teams seem to be doing. My name is Laura Sab, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. Ian, what to say about these Habs?
Lot going on in this game, huh? It had a little bit of everything that kind of, we talked about a lot of stuff in the last episode that we wanted to see in this game, and I think we saw a lot of it. We saw some big moments from some big players, and did the Canadiens have their best game against Tampa? No. Did it matter? Not at all. Samuel Montembeault had a great game, and the Canadiens keep on rolling, and they are officially, and I could say this because all of the other games have wrapped up, officially back in a playoff spot with the loss from Ottawa didn't matter in that sense, but now Montreal's tied with the Ottawa Senators after they got blown out by the Rangers in Madison Square Garden. So things are good. Things are good.
Can't complain. We're going to talk a little bit in our second segment about Samuel Montembeault bouncing back. And later on, we are going to talk a little bit about the Habs' lack of discipline and what can be done. And don't forget, we have our daily trivia. But first, let's talk about all of the things that happened in this game. I have to say, my favorite part of this game, as joyful as that Jake Evans goal was, as rewarding as it was to see all that hard work pay off for that entire line, my favorite part was when the linesman flattened Nikita Kucherov.
That was a lot of fun. Carrier, there was one shift where Carrier was glued to Nikita Kucherov, and he complained and threw his hands up because he's got the worst body language of any player in the league, and threw his hands up expecting a penalty. My favorite moment of the game was the final 15 seconds. And I was cackling on the couch because a few seconds before the last 15 seconds, I saw David Savard go into the corner to Montembeault's right, and he tried to seal the puck on the wall and didn't work. He didn't get a good seal. The puck came out. Just around the other side of the net, though, he's able to fall on it. And he was going to die there if that's what it took for the Canadiens to win that game. He was getting hit with every stick. At one point late in the scrum, he grabs a lightning stick with about 5 seconds to go, because what are you going to do? Call a penalty? Well, you're not going to call a penalty with 5 seconds left in the third period. We sort of saw that in the Vancouver game where Connor Garland was like, yeah, I just kind of grabbed Connor McDavid at the end because what are you going to do? So veteran move from David Savard. Really enjoyed that entire thing. And then seeing Yuppie lay on the ice to mock the doll that was thrown the other night. So again, vibes just fantastic. David Savard, veteran play at the end of that game. I laughed so loud on my couch watching him just take those sticks. It was great.
That's the kind of that's the reason people want a David Savard on their team in the playoffs, right? Like that's the guy that people are paying for. Which again, we don't know if the Canadiens are going to trade him away. He doesn't seem to want to leave Montreal. Montreal seems to love him a lot. But there's a lot to love. Yeah, they do. They need him to do that now.
To do that. He's doing his best Hal Gill impression this season.
In every 4-point game.
Yes, and he's laying on the ice on the penalty kill just like Hal Gill used to, just stretched out. You're not going to get the puck by me because I'm just laying here. This was a vintage David Savard game. I really loved the way that one ended. Hey, and also we should talk about the power play.
Yes.
Power play clicked, and I don't mean to I don't bang my own drum a lot, but what Slav did, where he scored, was exactly what I said to do last episode. He's going to create more space for his teammates if he becomes a shooting threat himself. I didn't expect him to score that quickly, but the idea was if you shoot from down low and create havoc, one, you'll give your team a chance to score on that play, and two, you'll potentially draw more attack or defenders to you so you can set up your other players. So it was I really enjoyed seeing that from him. He put that one in an absolutely perfect spot on the power play.
Yeah, I think he had a really good game. I also, we have to talk about Lane Hutson tying a record. For
Oh yeah,
in
just that.
yeah, I mean, it feels like he does that every game now.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of stuff we forget to talk about, and we were just talking earlier about Owen Beck. Like we haven't really acknowledged his call up, but he hasn't really been much of a factor in the games thus far. Once he does, we will be obviously talking more about him. But Lane Hutson, incredible game from him as always. I was very nervous about Caden Gooley with that elbow. I think there was maybe 10-ish minutes left, 7-ish minutes left.
Yeah.
He seems okay now. I'm
scared.
He
missed a shift.
Yeah.
He missed the very next shift, but I don't think he missed a shift the rest of the way.
No, he didn't, and he looked normal, but I'm just a little bit nervous because it's Caden Gooley and he's injury prone.
Yeah, I remember last game when Josh Anderson went down and needed help getting off the ice. That was scary, and it turns out he's fine. Nothing happened. So it's something to keep an eye on. I would imagine the next time the Canadiens practice, I don't know if because they're traveling again. I would doubt they practice tomorrow. If they do, expect to see maintenance day next to Caden Gooley's name. Maybe David Savard too, just for the beating he took in the last 15 seconds of the game. But
all the bruises all over his body.
Yeah, he earned that maintenance day. Yeah, you earned it, David.
Definitely, honestly, like I can't complain. The vibes are good. The Canadiens, they really needed Samuel Montembeault in that third period, particularly. We'll talk a bit about him later. I want to talk about that game-winning goal. Jake Evans, Yoel Armia, Josh Anderson. Like Josh Anderson doing the work, like the supporting. He was the load-bearing wall on that goal. And then Armia to Evans, obviously, like it seems like they just there's a way that they click that when they're playing together, they look like one of the best lines in the NHL. Now, they could be one of the best bottom six lines, like fourth lines in the NHL, right? They could be. But to me, like when I'm looking at them, like the way they click, the chemistry that they have, the work that they do, I just wish they had better finish, because if they did, we would be talking about, how a couple of years ago, there was this line with, I think it was Deno, Gallagher, and Tatar on it. And we talked about how like that single line was like one of the best in the NHL, even though the team wasn't much to talk about. Like, that's how I feel about this, but like in the bottom six genre.
Yeah. And look, you mentioned Owen Beck earlier and how he hasn't been a factor. Well, Josh Anderson set that play up from Owen Beck's spot.
Yeah.
Right? That was something that even when it was Pezzetta in the lineup, Marty was doing. Marty was taking the odd shift away from Owen Beck in that situation and giving it to Josh Anderson, which is a great idea. I really like that that line of decision making from the coach, because I think there's something about the way that those two lines play where it's difficult for someone who hasn't been on those lines all season to step in and play that role. We're seeing that from whoever steps into Heineman's spot, which we're probably already a week and a half into that, so we're almost there. But yeah, I think that Anderson brings a lot of what that fourth line is trying to do, and that's just play north-south, right? They don't do anything super fancy. They just get the puck and go, which has been Josh Anderson's favorite thing to do since he broke into the league. So it's a great fit there. It's nice, you mentioned that they need more finish. I think it's because Jake Evans used up a lot of his earlier. He had 5 games in a row where he scored. So, him getting that back, I didn't think the puck was going to get to Evans, but the second I saw it hit his stick, I realized that the Canadiens were going to win. Yeah. Like that was because the way that Vasilevsky had to move across, the time that it took to get there, it felt like as soon as it got to Evans, the game was over.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. And he's got 11 goals on the season, and there's still plenty of season left, right? Like we could be talking about an over 15 goal season for him, right? I'm not going to go as far as 20, Like that's a prediction I have for like,
I thought that's where you're heading. I'm like, we're
no, I'm
about
not.
halfway through.
I'm not. Yeah, he is more than halfway through. I think proportionally, there's about the same amount of games left in the season. Like if you're looking at it proportionally, but I'm more focused on like Cole Caulfield getting that 40. But I think Jake Evans, no matter what, is getting paid. I thought that was a microcosm of the Canadiens never being down and out, right? Like we used to see them give up. Now we see them just constantly working, no matter what. And we're going to talk about this in our next segment. Like, even when they're outworked in their own zone, and then like, later on, we're going to talk about discipline. Like, even when they're sort of behind in terms of like the way that they're playing, mostly because they have to be on the penalty kill a lot. Like the fact that they're doing the work and it's coming from everywhere, I think that's the thing that we have to celebrate. Like that's why there was like Yuppie lying on the ice, and the vibes are just so great. But speaking of great vibes, Samuel Montembeault did himself a lot of favors after having a rough game against Toronto. We have to be honest about that. And he bounced back, and we're going to talk about that in just one moment. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you'd think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. All right. So I think particularly in the third period, there were long stretches of time where the Canadiens really needed Samuel Montembeault. And this time, unlike Saturday night, he was able to deliver. I thought that he did a really good job of recovering. And to his credit, like when you look at Samuel Montembeault over the course of this season in particular, if he has a rough game, it's rare that he has another one too soon after. Like he's able to do the bounce backs. And I'm hopeful that now that Jakub Dobeš is here, he's going to be less tired. So we're going to see fewer games like the Toronto game going forward.
I agree. And look, I think there may be something to Montembeault against the Lightning. He's played 2 games and he's given up just 2 in both of them against one of the league's best offenses. I thought what was especially nice is that he wasn't expected to be their best penalty killer. The penalty kill seemed to play really well in front of him. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I found that his 5-on-5 saves needed to be spectacular because of the way that the Lightning are able to create off the rush, and he was up to the task. It's nice that he was able to sort of quiet the goalie controversy, even though I don't really know that there was one. I think a lot of that was fan driven. I do think that if Dobeš had played really, really, really well against the Rangers, we'd be talking about it heading into this one, but he didn't. He struggled in that game. Hey, clutched up in overtime. Really appreciated the 2 big saves we got there. But you could say the same thing about Montembeault in this one, except Montembeault played well the entire game, right? He did not give anything to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I didn't look up the expected goals, but in his last start against the Leafs, he gave 2.5 goals. Like that wasn't the case in this one. He was full value for the win.
Yeah, he was absolutely solid. And I think to me, I was watching his body language and he did not seem in any way feeling like he was out of place. He acted like it was like all in a day's work, right? Even though there were points where, he was under a barrage. And I don't know if there's anything to the fact that like John Cooper was there. He doesn't seem to be like that kind of guy. And also speaking of John Cooper, the TSN broadcast kept talking about how Nick Suzuki really wanted to have a good one in front of John Cooper, in front of Team Canada or whatever after being snubbed.
Mhm.
I don't think Nick Suzuki cares, to be honest. I think Nick Suzuki was just trying to be good. Like,
I don't think Nick Suzuki cares to stick it to John Cooper. I don't think that matters in this. I think that was a decision from the management, not so much from the coaching. I did just pull up the expected goal numbers in this one. First of all, the money puck deserved to win meter was not kind to the Montreal Canadiens, but doesn't matter. Scoreboard. The goal saved above expected, 2.36. So basically, he won back the goals that he gave up in Toronto. All is equal in the universe, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing with Montembeault is that on average, his numbers look okay, right?
Yeah.
But that's because some games
He's
is
amazing.
unbelievable and other games he is unbelievable. And those are different definitions of that word. So, that's the challenge with him is that you're not that. And that's why I think playing him at Four Nations might be the right move. If you're getting the right version of Sam Montembeault, he's that guy.
Yeah.
If you're not, you're getting the one you saw on Saturday, and Canada won't medal in a 14 tournament. Like that's the risk that you have there. But you could say that about the other goalies that they brought, right? Like the other one is Jordan Binnington. I don't know if you know this, got a bit of a temper. Aiden Hill was really hot on that run to the Cup final, and we haven't really heard much since then. So
he's fine.
Yeah, it's a short tournament, so I think that's what kind of leans in Montembeault's favor is that if he can be the guy that John Cooper saw tonight, he's probably going to get the most starts. It's a very short tournament. They're not going to play all three goalies. I really do think that if he continues to put up efforts like this one, he's their goalie.
Yeah, for sure. I really liked what I saw, but also I think the Canadians, his energy affects them sometimes. And I hate saying this because I like to believe in data and I like to believe in concrete things, but I just feel sometimes like when Samuel Montembeault's energy is not all there, the Canadians are also not all there. And it's weird because sometimes he's like he's the only good player on the ice some nights.
Yeah.
And then some nights, he's fine. It feels like when he's not playing well, the rest of them just get scared.
Yeah. And I don't know that that's specific to the Canadians. I think a bad goalie saps all of the confidence out of your roster. I think I go ask the Philadelphia Flyers players how they feel about Sam Ersson and Ivan Fedotov. Like those are the guys that are, sinking that roster. Are they a really great team? No, but their goaltending hasn't been helpful.
Yeah.
That's why at the beginning of the season, you saw so many teams panic about their goaltending and start shuffling pieces around. Colorado Avalanche completely turned over both of their goalies. So, that's not, I don't think that's voodoo, your thought that goaltending can sink the morale of a team, because if you have no confidence that your goalie is going to be able to cover up some of your mistakes, you're gripping the stick a little bit tighter. You're thinking, I have to make the perfect play, otherwise it's in the back of our net. And you'll think that whether you're in the defensive zone or in the offensive zone, if I miss this shot and it rims all the way around, it's going to be an odd man rush back the other way, and my goalie ain't going to make the save. Like that's the mentality that you have to have sometimes when your goaltender isn't being what you need. So the fact that the Canadians now have two of those goalies that they can trust means on any given night, the Canadians don't have that mentality. So it was nice to see him bounce back and reaffirm the Canadians' belief in him, because I don't think that wavered for a second in that locker room, in that front office, behind that bench ever.
Yeah, but I mean, they played differently on Saturday night is where I'm at, right? And then and you saw them, again, that's over. I can't keep being mad about it, especially since I just realized I'm wearing Leafs colors right now.
Since that happened, they have won 2 hockey games. I think we can move on.
We can move on. Oh, I did want to talk about the New York Rangers game because they beat the Ottawa Senators 5-0.
Correct.
And Brady Tkachuk lost his mind.
Yeah. and Matt Rempe scored for the Rangers.
Not only did he score,
and it
he
was
scored
nice
like an
too.
amazing
Ottawa,
goal.
what are you doing? Yeah, it was a nice goal. Yeah, that was a tough look. You hate to see it. Not really. Yeah, it was
couldn't happen to a nicer team.
no, and look, the mix stays very
Makes
tight
sense.
in the Eastern Conference. It's gonna, unless the team starts like dropping off 4 games at a time, it's probably gonna stay this way until April. So, I'm excited. Like I said last episode, though, I am not scoreboard watching. Okay. I'm not doing it. I cannot allow myself to be in that mindset. Just win. Just win the hockey games in front of you. The rest will work itself out. Win the
Yes.
games in front of you. That's all I care about.
Pretty much. The mix can continue to I was gonna say something. Circulate there.
Yeah.
The mix can continue to do whatever it does, and the Canadiens just need to keep winning to remain in it. All right, if they are to remain in the mix, though, they do have to get a bit more disciplined because they take way too many penalties for any team, not just one with hopes to continue to be in the mix and hopefully grab a wild card spot. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and the penalty kill in just one moment. From the whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. When you're betting on your favorite team, or whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. And I said $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And us. Okay, so the Canadiens are in the mix. They continue to be in the mix. The mix keeps churning. The word I was looking for was churning.
You got it.
The mix continues to churn. But the Habs take way too many penalties, and it is going to burn them. Their penalty kill, really good. Nothing to complain about there. However, they do take way too many penalties, and partly there is definitely incompetence in the officiating ranks. There's also the Canadiens, being a team that's less good. Generally, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. You're seen as the ones taking the penalties. So they're kind of victimized by that a lot. There are obviously some teams that cry a lot more about officiating, so they get more calls their way just because they give the NHL a headache about it. I don't know if you believe Tampa to be one of those teams, but I still think the Montreal Canadiens, knowing all of that, they need to be way more disciplined than they have been because they have all of those things going against them.
First of all, the question about is Tampa one of those teams? 1,000,000%. You don't. Look, I do not think that you can have as much success in this league as the Tampa Bay Lightning have had without getting a little help from the Stripes. There's no shot. The fact that Carrier is defending Kucherov and is doing nothing illegal. And the fact that the second that interaction is over, Kucherov has his gloves, his palms faced towards the sky, looking at the referee like, come on, you owe me one there. So, look, like you said, the officiating is incompetent more often than not. It's bad. 4 penalties, four power plays tonight for Tampa. 3 of those were absolutely deserved. And that's the challenge, right? I want to talk about the one that wasn't deserved first, which was the Mike Matheson penalty. By the way, bad Mike Matheson game. You could tell from the beginning. It just wasn't going to go well for him. It's okay. They won. Doesn't matter. That play was a pick play. It was a pick interference play that I think this season, I think we see that play every other shift in the National Hockey League. And it was only a penalty because Kucherov fell over. Like the fact that the NHL does not effectively call that penalty is mind-boggling to me. So that was a garbage call. Ball don't lie. They killed it. That's fine. The others, they're penalties. And they're tripping penalties. A lot of stick infractions. A lot of high sticks. 2 high sticks in this one. I think a lot of that comes from the fact that if you watch the Canadiens go into any altercation for the puck, their first move always is to do this little stick lift right as the puck is getting to where the opponent thinks it's going to be. It's incredibly effective at disrupting them from making the play they want to make, but sometimes you miss and you high stick a guy, or you catch him in the gloves, or you slash him, or you trip him. So like that's the risk that goes along with making that play as many times as the Canadiens do. They got to figure it out. They got to figure out a way not to take as many penalties, because the refs are going to screw them when the refs want to screw them. These are ones they can help, though, right? These are ones that are within their control. Like you said, penalty kill was great. 4 for 4. Tampa didn't get many quality looks on the power play. So, yes, that's great. But that shouldn't be a reason that we just go, it's the penalty. Penalties don't matter.
Because the penalties do, like at the end of the day, at some point it's going to burn you. It doesn't matter if you have, even if you're perfect in a game, which does happen like quite often with the Montreal Canadiens. They're great at penalty killing, and sometimes but you're still behind the play there. You're playing at a disadvantage. Like, you're going to be tired. Like, players are playing in positions that they need to be double shifted, for example, or they're playing in positions that aren't their optimal ones, or things like that, right? So for me, like, you're just, whether or not you actually give up a goal, you're giving away some control of the game when you're doing that. And it's not just for those 2 minutes that you're on the penalty kill. It's, the subsequent shifts after that.
Yes.
So I think it's like they definitely need to work on that. And to me, the answer is also, it's not to be aggressive. It's just to be careful. Like, you just have to be careful. You can be bold and keep your stick on the ice. You can be bold and keep your elbows in. You can be bold and like not, trip people. I was gonna say slew foot, but I haven't really seen any slew footing. Let's be honest. It's more trip.
Yeah, it's stick fouls, which are super, super annoying. The one, I don't want to say benefit of them taking a lot of penalties, but I'll say it because I can't find the other words. At the end of a successful penalty kill, most of the time the next line up is the second line, which has been excellent. So they get a lot of opportunities after the penalty kill to go after Tampa's, not the top of Tampa's lineup. I'd like to see them start to capitalize on that a little bit more. They generally get, push play down the other way, and that's fine. But for them to start to execute on scoring in those moments, I think would give the penalty kill even more momentum, and just make those moments matter a little bit more for the Montreal Canadiens. But they're gonna have to figure out how to not take these penalties. That's just the bottom line here. There's no other way around it.
Yeah, particularly if they make the playoffs, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, the closer they get, they can stay in the mix. They can give us, a fun, like, home stretch. That's great. But if they make the playoffs, like, these things will really, really burn them. And I know the officials put their whistles away, et cetera, et cetera. You hear that. But are you telling me the Montreal Canadiens are not going to get extra penalized during the playoffs? I don't think so.
No, I think a lot of this is a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. I think the Canadiens do themselves no favors and take a lot of penalties. And because they take a lot of penalties, the referees find that, well, they already take a bunch. So if I give them another, what's the big deal? They're not going to complain,
Or they might just be an undisciplined team in general. So it's fine.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Referees, when you look at referees through the lens of they don't want to be the reason a game is decided, it makes a lot of sense. And they're going, well, if Montreal's going to take a lot of penalties anyway, if I call this chintzy one, it's not going to matter, right? So like that's sort of what I'm thinking there. But they gotta cool it. They gotta make better on a lot of these plays. It's funny thinking about this, and like, who's not taking a lot of these penalties is Arber Xhekaj. Like, that's but really funny to me that's the guy that we're not talking about right now.
Yeah. Which is kind of incredible. And also, we didn't talk about his fight against Rempe the other night. People asked us to mention it. Good job, Arber.
Yeah.
But, there was a great hit. I think it was Kucherov. Was it Kucherov? Who did he hit?
No, he hit
late in the game.
No, it was Geeky.
Great.
It was
Geeky,
Connor
right.
Geeky. Yeah.
Fantastic hit. I love that.
Yeah.
Like that's what you want to see towards the end of a game.
Yeah. The only other thing I want to say about Xhekaj is Ryan Reeves shut up challenge. Like, just stop talking, my man. Every time, I don't know if you caught this today, but he was in the locker room saying that Xhekaj owed him the fight at that time because the code or some nonsense. I just cannot think of a bigger whiner in the National Hockey League than Ryan Reaves. Every time you see a video about to play of him speaking in the dressing room, just know that he's about to complain about someone that has no business being complained about. It's just, he is the perfect Leafs enforcer. Yeah. I'll say it that way. The perfect Toronto Maple Leafs enforcer. Just going to run my mouth and do nothing about it. Cool. Exactly. Pound sand. Yeah.
And real quick, what I want to say about that is after that New York Rangers game, our lovely friend Kay had a game over episode where she invited Nick, who I generally really, really like, but did compare Arber Xhekaj to Matt Rempe, Ryan Reaves, and Nick Deslauriers. No. Nope. Arber Xhekaj is way a cut above those guys.
I'm going to say it, Laura. I'm going to say it. Watch the games. Watch the games. You're not paying attention if you think that they're the same kind of guy. He's not a Ryan Reaves. He's an important hockey player on this team. Watch the game.
Yes. So it's time for our trivia, Ian. You had a great question yesterday. I think I only got 2 out of the 4.
Yeah. No one had Habs first goal this time. Keep sending them in. We'll have a winner eventually. But odds are someone will guess someone correctly. So keep sending them in. Not this episode, but the following one when Montreal plays Detroit on Thursday. All right. Yesterday's question was, I have to pull this up, apologies. The Canadiens and Lightning have played 14 playoff games against each other over 4 series. 4 of those games required overtime. Who scored those 4 overtime winners? Do you have, which 2 did you guess?
I said Brad Richards.
Brad Richards is correct. That was April 27th, 2004. So that was in the first series.
And then Brendan Gallagher.
Brendan Gallagher did not have one for the Montreal Canadiens. So
I was so sure he did.
The answers in chronological order are Brad Richards in April of 2004, Dale Weiss in April of 2016. Or 2014 rather, that sweep over the Lightning. It was game 1. I remember it because I was watching it with my now wife, and I said, "Why is Dale Weiss on the ice?" And he ended up scoring. And
it was overtime.
He became my wife's favorite player for a while because it made me look stupid. Nikita Kucherov had one in 2015, which is important to note because he was offside. They were offside on the entry before he scored that goal. So jobbed once again by the referees. And I can't believe because I also forgot this one, Josh Anderson in the Stanley Cup final. He had the game-winning goal in the only
one game they won.
Yeah. We've just erased it from memory. He had the tying goal too. I believe it was a 2-1 game. And we've just erased that. So Josh Anderson, apologies. I was not familiar with that game. So yeah, pretty fun stuff. I couldn't believe that there are as many overtime games as there were, but that's the way it is. All right. Since we talked about the quarter century team last time around, we're going to do a 25 years of history question. Since 2000, 2001, how many Canadiens have scored 70-point seasons? So last 25 seasons, or 24 if you don't count the lockout, which you shouldn't. How many Montreal Canadiens have scored 70-point seasons? You have the answer. Put it in the comments on YouTube. Email us. Send it to us anywhere that you can get in contact with us, and we'll shout you out on the next episode of the show.
Do they need to name all of them or just tell us how many?
Nah, just give me the number.
Okay, perfect. This is ripe for guessing.
Yeah, just throw a number, any number.
Yes. And folks, if you do want to throw a number, any number at us, please do so. You can find us all over the internet. Our email address is lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at Locked On Canadiens. You can find us on TikTok at Locked On Canadiens. You can find us on Instagram at Locked On Canadiens. We're just at Locked On Canadiens everywhere. And you can message us. Also, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Don't forget Habs first goal any day, or Friday where there's weekend games. And please tell your friends. You can find my co-host all over social media. Maybe it's Ian. You'll find me at the Active Stick. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we will see you all tomorrow.